ayayere uyo uko kuno apo pano mamu wanna get it night.
Right, 10 August 2021, and I'm joined by my regular guest, Dr. Feddious Mutenheri. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, Gambakwe. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well, and I would like to thank you very much for joining me for this quick discussion we're going to be having on the election in Zambia. The election in Zambia, the general election, is going to be held on the 12th of August, which is Thursday.
Yes.
And this election comes 5 years after the election on 11 August 2016, and the two main candidates, Edgar Lungu and Hakainde Hichilema, they have been engaged in a vicious fight over 3 elections. So they have been the main candidates in Zambia for the past 3 elections, in 2015, in 2016, and now in 2021. And each time they have differed only by less than 50,000 votes when they go out in elections. So this is going to be a critical election, and I want us to start with the deployment of the army on 1 August. What is your view on that deployment by President Edgar Lungu of the army in Zambia?
Thank you very much, Gambakwe, for that background that you have just given us, and also for asking this very pertinent question, us discussing, the politics of our region. And Zambia is a very important one that we are discussing today. Allow me to just take a little historical journey so that we put again our viewers into some perspective, because I think the issue of the deployment of the army cannot just come without us looking at the politics of Zambia. Probably most Zimbabweans who might not follow it, they might need to know Zambia, what is it about? I just need to take a short history to get to where we are. Zambia gained its independence in 1964, and it was led by its founding father, Kenneth Kaunda, may his soul rest in peace. And from 1964 till for 27 years, till 1991, Kenneth Kaunda ruled this country. And probably your viewers might need to know that within that 27 years, the first 19 years from 1964 from 1972 up till 1991, Kenneth Kaunda had declared Zambia a one-party state, and there was no multi-partyism as we have it today. But in 1991, after a lot of pressure, international, local pressure, riots and everything, he had to give in to constitutional change in which there was multi-partyism. And we remember 1991 with the emergence of the MMD, Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, led by Chiluba, who was a trade unionist and who had obviously gathered together with other local capitalists and stuff like that. He won, and there was a lot of hope in Zambia that there was going to be change. However, towards even midway through his first term, all his promises fell off. Like he had promised a lot of political changes, political reforms, because under Kaunda there was a lot of, people hated the authoritarianism and obviously the economic decay that they were experiencing. Chiluba would take his two terms, but by the time he left office, people did not like him. But within that, remember, Chiluba tried to change Zambia into I mean, he wanted to run for a third term, something that people did not expect. And this led to actually a whole lot of split within his own party. A lot of splits happened there. Some of his colleagues went on to form their own parties. But we saw the emergence of Levi Mwanawasa, who I think today, probably other Zambians out there might tend to correct me, but he has been viewed as a more progressive, one of their most progressive leaders, in that he tried to push in some political changes. Unfortunately, in 2008, within his second term, he died. And then from there, we saw the rise of the Patriotic Front, at that time led by Michael Sata. And Michael Sata's PF obviously came from, it was a splinter party from the MMD that was led by Chiluba, and the discord came when he could not be chosen to lead ahead of Mwanawasa. Now, Sata, he was at first, when he came in, he had quite some popularity, and they said during his time there was quite some improvements, but he had again this authoritarian kind of push. He hated the opposition, and fast track again. Sata passed on, and now we saw the coming in of Lungu. Lungu, when he came in, he sought to evoke Kenneth Kaunda's mantra, particularly of a one Zambia, one nation. Remember, Zambia is a multi-ethnic nation. Actually, it has got more than 70, one could say even 73 ethnic groups. So Kenneth Kaunda actually managed to rule that country as one nation using that mantra, and he tried to do ethnic balancing in all his thing. Now, come to Lungu. Lungu, when he came in, you know, he, like most opposition in Zambia, you know, when you are in opposition, normally there is something you evoke. Particularly in Zambia, there is a lot of evoking the anti-China mantra, in which, because the Chinese are the major investors in that country. So when he came in with one Zambia, one nation, and then an anti-China kind of mantra. But no sooner had he gotten into power, he realized that probably statecraft was different from what you say when you are in opposition. He changed. He sort of flip-flopped, and he started himself to work with the Chinese. But this is known that it was meant to boost the economy and stuff like that. Lungu went on a borrowing spree, which today is actually one of the main topics within the Zambian body politic. And they say when he took power in 2011, Zambia had a debt, an external debt of about 1.9 billion. But today, as we speak, they are grappling with a 19 billion debt. They went on for an expensive debt. So when that happened, it also brought in a whole lot of economic challenges. Zambia has now been gripped by issues of high inflation, high unemployment, and a whole of other social and economic ills. However, the PF party, or the Patriotic Front party, sort of boasts of what they have done over these past 10 years. And they say, we have gone on an infrastructural development drive, construction of roads, of airports. I mean, you know, they have developed mining and all that stuff. But this has not trickled down to the ordinary Zambian, who today is struggling. Coupled, I mean, who is troubled or who is in dire poverty, coupled now with the historic, case of African leadership, that there is gross human rights abuses, forced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, and what we have seen in most African countries, it has made this election quite a very tense one. And in fact, people say the euphoria of 1991 is back with the Zambians today. So in that fear, now coming to answer your question, what do you make of the deployment of the military ahead of Zambia's elections? That background can inform us that while the Zambian army has been known to be quite a professional army, this is unprecedented. And with what President Lungu has been showing, that love for power and to maintain it at all costs, this deployment is viewed with suspicion that it is probably meant to intimidate the electorate. It is meant probably to help rigging, as in even they fear that stuffing of ballots could be done. But also there is another view which says this could backfire for the government, because the army's history of professionalism, they could really stay out of the politics and decide to serve as a credible institution of the state. But there is no doubt that the president, whether by miscalculation or something else, he is pushed by the fact that I mean, this election is a very tight one. However, on the government side, we have heard them say that it is a security measure, because recently there have been some few reports of deaths in both parties. However, analysts say they have been sporadic, and we are yet to see what will come of it. But if you look at how the president has treated the main opposition, particularly as led by UPND, by the one by Hakainde Hichilema, you can see that he has handled the opposition with a heavy-handed. It has been a heavy-handed kind of approach, refusing him to travel outside of the country, refusing them to campaign. I mean, everyone today using the excuse of COVID-19 restrictions, yet the ruling Patriotic Front has been able to do so. So the deployment of the army, in the view of the opposition, it is meant for intimidation. But surely it could backfire. So that's what I can say in my introductory statements there, Gambakwe.
Okay, I want to play a small clip of President Edgar Lungu talking to the AU delegation. And okay, I want you to hear what he says about the deployment.
But I've still maintained law and order post-election. And the one way of maintaining law and order is the police and the security wings. There is no country in the world. Look at Capitol Hill. What happened in Washington? They walked into there, and who came to the rescue of democracy? It was the police, it was the National Guard. And now in Zambia, I should wait until more lives are lost.
Okay. So he's justifying the deployment of the army because lives have been lost. And he says he's going to have more deployment after the elections. Do you think this election can be called free and fair after these threats of deploying the army before and after the elections?
Okay, so thank you again for that question, Gambakwe. An election, for it to be considered free and fair, remember there is also another word they use in declaring elections: credible. Then the credibility of the election the freeness and the fairness. Sometimes an election can be unfree or not free or not fair, but they can gauge on credibility like we have seen in other countries and say it is fine. But look, when a president says things like that, it really takes away the confidence not only of the electorate, of the Zambians themselves, but of observers and other countries who look at this election, you know, hoping probably to cooperate with this country. You can sense you know, a sense of I mean, a feeling that this president is looking defeat in his face. And surely, as you rightly ask, that the possibility of deploying the army post-independence, I mean post the election, could be something that he is expecting to lose, and the army will play a role, and it is not good for him. But also, don't forget that the same president recently announced that Hakainde Hichilema would be arrested after the election if he tries to take power, if in case he wins. And he said this, it is reported in the Zambia Times. And this is one thing that I can say, that this president is staring defeat, and he can sense it, because there has been serious discontent and disillusionment about the corruption. Like I was telling you, that there's been reported high-profile corruption. A whole lot of ethnic division now has been fueled under this president. Like I said, at first you were saying one Zambia, one nation, but all this whole mantra seems to have gone through the window, and Zambia is more divided than it was under Kaunda himself. And with the whole conglomerate of other ills that are happening in Zambia, I foresee that he senses defeat and he is preempting. You know, we have seen in other countries, such as in Zimbabwe and other countries, where the army has really been used to either to delay the announcement of results, or in the event that they realize that the electorate will not accept the results, the army is already deployed in preparation of that. And I can see that this president is most likely, I hope not, is most likely to take Zambia in the wrong direction. Remember, Zambia has been viewed since 1991 as one of the democratic, I mean, as a democratic nation in the right, at least in the right way. Already they have had peaceful transfers of power, over 8 presidents, like I have highlighted through here. But right now, we wait to see whether he will stick to the democratic precepts that people expect of him. But otherwise, it will be a sad, very, very sad chapter for Zambia if he were to learn the bad examples that we have seen in Africa.
Okay, now let us conclude with the feeling that President Lungu expressed to the AU.
Yeah,
he says Hakainde Hichilema has never called him president ever since he was elected. He has called him Mr. and he feels that's disrespectful, and he's a troublemaker. In fact, let me play you the clip where he's saying Hakainde Hichilema is a troublemaker.
Okay.
The other parties, I have not much difficulty with them. I'm talking about UPND here, in case there is doubt. I'm talking about UPND here, and the gentleman called the HH, Hakainde Hichilema. He's a troublemaker. He means no good until he gets what he wants to be in State House. And we can't allow that, because there's a process.
Right. We have here, you're hearing him saying Hakainde Hichilema is a troublemaker.
Yeah.
And Hakainde, HH, he's got very high vote numbers. We're talking here of almost the difference between them was 27,000 votes.
Yes.
What could be the solution here? A government of national unity, dialogue, because these two, they are very close in terms of support.
Yes, definitely. Actually, if you look, you see, there are two or three things I want to say, Gambakwe. Firstly, about what President Lungu is expressing. This comes from a sense of most African leaders. This sense of entitlement of treating the opposition and even the people they rule as if they were fathers, and and everyone else is a child. His demand to be called president or His Excellency and not Mr. Lungu, this kind of wanting to be respected so much, it's something that has always troubled me to say, why is it? Is it the power that they would have held? Is it a sense of entitlement? What is it? Is it the patriarchy under which they grew, or whatever? But look, you cannot today talk about a government of national unity or so without looking at what the laws of Zambia say. The laws of Zambia, they require that anyone who wins 50% of the vote plus one will lead the country, and that is it. And if you can look at the polls in Zambia today, actually there are two very different polls that have come out. One which is coming from the political science of Zambia, which puts President Lungu at the top with about 44.5% of the vote, and putting Hakainde Hichilema at around 33%. And this grouping is working with some London-based and Washington-based so-called think tanks, but it has come out that those think tanks are just PR management companies which have been hired by the government. And then there is another one which is coming from the Afrobarometer, which we have known in many countries, that it has been used in quite a number of African countries, about 30 countries. I'm not necessarily saying Afrobarometer itself is a much more credible think tank, but it has put President Lungu at 22.9, and Hakainde Hichilema at 25%. These are two different polls. So this kind of show you how divided Zambia is. But as at the present moment, what can only solve this division that the country is facing is an election. And we see how the election comes out. It is the maturity of the leader of the day, or the winner of the day, to bring all the other stakeholders to the table. If there could be need for cooperation, if there could be need for a government of national unity. But for a whole sitting president to start now to preempt a whole election system by way of accusing the opposition as a troublemaker, by deploying a whole army, by threatening to arrest an opposition leader, I think that is what we must exercise African politics of. This is the case of African politics, that we do not have leaders who grow above the politics and become nation builders and become statesmen and be able to humbly accept defeat and go back and farm or look after their grandchildren.
Okay, so Doc, I was showing this screen.
Yeah.
because I want to show you how the Zambians are voting. To the north, you've got a PF winning, and then to the south, you've got HH winning, and this is the 26th election. These two have never differed by a lot, less than 30,000 votes in the last election. And I think the biggest problem we have is whoever loses is going to challenge the election, is going to dispute the elections. What is the solution for elections in Africa? You saw Chamisa here in Zimbabwe refusing to accept that he has lost. And this has been the case with Morgan Tsvangirai before. No one ever wants to accept that they've lost. What happens in Zambia if they dispute this election? They've got a process, obviously. But does this not affect the economy, the day-to-day life of the people? What is the solution to these disputed elections?
Look, Gambakwe, for me, the solution as at present, I think it lies, part of it lies within the regional Southern African development community, which, I mean, with all purposes and intents, has totally failed the region for the past, ever since the independence of the first countries which got independence. Look, SADC has developed principles of free and fair elections within its country, its member countries, which are supposed to be observed. But what have we seen? Because what we have seen is that mostly SADC has become more of a grouping of old boys, of liberation movements, and also of incumbents. And in that regard, they have tended to brush aside those issues that are, I mean, relevant issues that are raised by opposition parties. So what they do is that they do not, they have not approached elections with I know, we don't brook nonsense kind of attitude. So you would find out that they are the ones who have actually fomented these divisions in trying to protect their own, especially those who are in power. Now, in that kind of situation, you would realize that that division will always be there. We need African countries. We need a SADC that is strong, that will brook no nonsense that these incumbents always foment. And when you do that, when they send their observers, they must send them with a clear mandate to say, wherever you see irregularities, call a spade a spade. And let's have examples of, I think I respect very much what the Botswana government under President Kama, that stance which it used to have on countries that that were undemocratic, that call them out, and you see that most incumbents will get into an election with that in mind, that I have to hold a very credible, a very dignified election in which the winner must be allowed to take over power. So if we do not have that kind of a strong regional bloc, a strong you know, a bloc which is going to call out, we are not going to have you know, undisputed elections. But also, I cannot only leave it on a regional bloc, on the regional bloc, but within the country itself. For crying out loud, we need new leaders today. We need new leaders who realize what democracy entails, that it is all about the development of the country. It's not about you getting onto that power of seat and then get yourself corrupted by that power. No. So, but that is more difficult now to achieve, because political parties strive to get political power and get it forever and ever and never leave. So I if you would ask me, I am one person that looks out for the SADC bloc to strengthen itself. If we strengthen the SADC bloc, I think we will have credible elections. We will have an organization that is able to come in between protagonists and probably try and diffuse some of these unnecessary disputes that we have.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Feddious Mutenheri. I really enjoyed talking to you. And the election in Zambia is starting on Thursday. This is going to be very, very important. We need to watch this very, very closely, because it's going to be disputed. That is obvious. And after the dispute, there's going to be 14 days within which they have to finalize everything. So it's going to be very interesting for the next 3 weeks. We're going to see a lot of activity in Zambia. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
No, in the spirit of discussing elections in Zambia, probably to just wish the Zambian people a very successful election. Actually, we wish them peace. We wish them a smooth transition of power after their election, and we want to wish them very, very well, and let them be exemplary. There are other countries out there that need to learn that Africa can move out of this dark, era of disputed election into an era where the loser accepts defeat, and the winner takes power smoothly, and we develop our nations. And so Zambia, please remain as one Zambia, one nation, and we wish you all well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And we'll see you again next week. And good night to everyone at home.
Thank you very much, Gambako.
Uko